Welcome to the NHL 3-Down Breakdown, sportsbookreview.com. I'm Ian Cameron. It is our first our first official Tuesday game breakdown show of the season. October the 10th, 7 games on the NHL Tuesday night card. We're going to break them all down for you. I'm going to introduce my full, healthy, no injuries, no absences. The IR is a clean sheet today, baby. Everybody's here. Everybody's accounted for. My entire team of NHL betting handicappers and experts are intact and on the show today. We're going to go left to right. Let's start with Alex B. Smith, the newest member to the SBR family. Alex B. Smith, you can find him on AX Smith Sports on Twitter. Alex, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's like I said, it's great for all of us to be here today and talk some good hockey games. Been a great week, first half week I guess of games. So I'm hoping that'll continue and get to see some good action today.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, we've got Andrew McInnes. You can follow him on Twitter at McInnesPicks. Andrew, what's up? How are you today?
Hey, doing pretty good, Ian. Had a great Canadian Thanksgiving, and we're back for some more NHL this week. And one thing I will say, guys, I'm just really happy to see how tight this league seems so far. We saw Vancouver beat the Oilers. We're seeing New Jersey play pretty well. We saw Detroit get a surprising win, and we saw some teams this week really surprise us. So it's really good to see, and I'm looking forward to seeing how these weeks unfold here.
You know what? That's a good point. There's always these little blips on the radar, so to speak. These teams that just fly out of the gate, surprisingly, in terms of a good start. New Jersey and Detroit, probably right at the top of the list with the way they've gone. The question is sustainability. Can it continue for a full 82-game schedule with one of those teams? And I'll get to that. I'm still not sure about that. But Dana Lane is next up. Dana Lane Sports on Twitter. Hey, he's back. I don't know what happened with Saturday, but there's tech issues. What can we do? Not much, but everything's good to go today. The green light is there for Dana Lane. You can follow him at Dana Lane Sports on Twitter. Dana, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. It's the home opener for the Vegas Golden Knights, and of course this city is excited not only to add another layer of healing to the events that have taken place over the last 8 days, but this for a lot of people is the day that we've all been looking forward to. I mean, this town is long overdue to get a professional sports team, and tonight is the home opener against the Arizona Coyotes, and it's almost anticlimactic. It almost seems like that we should have had this a long time ago, and but certainly it's a big night, and there's all sorts of events around the game. So we're excited to get this thing kicked off.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, a great night for the city of Las Vegas, for hockey fans in that city. We know Brian Blessing are two chief hockey fans in that city, and I know a bunch of others as well. Just fantastic, and looking forward to the puck dropping on the Las Vegas Golden. I still say Las Vegas, though I've never heard anyone say that. That really bothers me. I got to go into a brief.
That is the city's name, Ian. I mean, we don't call it the Angeles Dodgers.
Exactly. I think dropping the Las makes no sense to me. None. Zero. I mean, Las Vegas Golden Knights. Why can't we say that? It's not the Angeles Kings. It's not the York Rangers. Let's go here. Let's. Why you're dropping the line? And I haven't heard any of the broadcasters either mention it during a game. They're always saying Vegas. Vegas.
I've heard it a couple. I've heard it a couple times, Ian, and that was listen, I was never against the Golden Knights thing. My thing is, if you're plopping down $500 million to put an NHL team in Las Vegas, you can call it whatever you want. But to me, you keep the Las Vegas intact because that is what this whole thing is about. If you want to call it the Golden Knights, that's fine. You want to pay homage to where you went to school, I get that. But you keep the Las Vegas intact because that's us. We're not Vegas. We say, let us say that. Don't put it in front of people and say, well, that's the name of our city, because that's just what we do when we're lazy, when we're talking about our city or just trying to be cool.
100%. And I'm guilty of saying Vegas too, but you don't put that on the marquee. You don't. Exactly. 100%. You got to put the whole city name.
That's on us, though, Ian. That's on us to say when we talk about it, where are you from? Vegas. Well, that's, just like the people from Los Angeles say, I'm from LA. Okay, well, that's on you, but that's not the proper name of the city. That was my only issue with that whole thing, but who cares? Drop the puck. Yeah,
that is. It doesn't make sense to me, but hey, whether they're Vegas or Las Vegas, it's still, what are people going to be most caring about? Wins and losses in the standings. That's what they're up. That's what they're into. So let's get to it. Tuesday's card. We got 7 games. We're going to start at the top of the card, rotation in rotation order. Betting rotation number 1 and 2, St. Louis taking on the New York Rangers. No line here, but we can still talk about this game, and I know there's someone in particular that does want to talk about this game. Andrew, what do you think about this contest here tonight?
Look, I just think the Blues have played 2 games in 3 days. I think they're tired. I think they're not really looking like the same team they were really in their first game. I'm looking at New York in this game, guys. I think their depth right now is looking pretty strong. I think everyone's touching the puck. There's not one particular person that's really making all the plays. They've got a lot of depth all over the place. I think Lundqvist is due for a bounce back. It's not really type of role thing that you usually see from Lundqvist to get pulled in a game. You don't really see him on the bench in the third period when he started the game in the first period. So I'm looking to see the Rangers definitely bounce back in this game. I think it should be a solid game for them. The Blues are probably tired, and I think home ice advantage is really undervalued in the NHL. So for everyone watching out there, home ice is so valuable, and the Blues have been traveling. So I'm going with the New York Rangers tonight.
All right, New York Rangers, who have not been very impressive at all to me, but this is one of those spots you're going to come up with. Sometimes you got to make a case for a struggling team if you feel they're in an advantageous spot. That could be the case here for the Rangers, with the Blues having played a back-to-back. They were in Long Island yesterday on Columbus Day, and in an afternoon game, we're able to get the victory there. St. Louis, good start to the season despite all the injuries. Let's give St. Louis, let's give Mike Yeo credit. And this is not always a guy that I've thought has had his head screwed in properly at times, Mike Yeo. But he's been able to get this team to perform with a glut of injuries to begin the season. So give him credit for being able to do that. I'm totally not going to be involved in this game from a betting perspective, even when the line comes out. Does Alex or Dana have any quick thought on this one?
Well, one note for the Blues tonight: Carter Hutton is starting in net, so that's I'm sure that'll be adjusted within the line. But other than that, I have nothing really to add in with that.
All right.
For me, and I mean, look, I mean, I love Lundqvist because, the other day he comes out and said, well, what was the difference between Montreal and Toronto? And he said, well, when we played Toronto, we played a good team. I'm paraphrasing, but that was, kind of a shot at Montreal. So I love that about Lundqvist a little bit. But, I'm going to grab some of that momentum, but I'm not looking to play the whole game. I'm looking to play the first period with the Rangers. I expect another solid defensive effort. And let's also remember this is kind of Kevin Shattenkirk's coming home party. Well, not coming home, but of course playing a team that said that they didn't want him anymore. And the Rangers have been pretty good against the Western Conference. They've won 21 out of their last 28. So we'll take the home team. Just like Andrew said, I think a lot of people don't put a proper emphasis on that. And not just because of the home team, but because obviously they get the matchups that they want with the changes. So I like the Rangers, but I like the Rangers in the first period. I'm not confident to put my money on them the whole 60 minutes, but I do think that they will come out strong in this one.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about a first period bet. If you're not convinced this team has the sustainability in them, that ability to play for 60 minutes, but you're feeling they're coming out of the gate strong off a bad performance or whatever, yeah, you have that first period option at your disposal, and that's the route Dana's taking on that one. Next game on the card, we've got Columbus taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. Rotation number 3 and 4. Carolina minus 125 home chalk, slight moderate home chalk. Total 5.5, about minus 115 to minus 125, depending on where you look with the total in that game. And the Columbus Blue Jackets, boy, you look at this roster, certainly a team that's got a lot of youth in it, but a lot of talented youth. And it's a team that, so far this season, 1-1, got the win against the New York Islanders, played on a back-to-back. And I think outside of maybe Vegas when they beat Arizona Saturday, it's not been good for teams playing the second night of back-to-back games. Most teams have struggled in that situation. Teams who have won in a back-to-back spot so far. Columbus is a team that coming into this season, I thought they'd be right in the mix in the Eastern Conference playoff race. That's probably where they're going to be. I think they're going to be one of those teams that's battling throughout the season to be a playoff team. But we know Columbus with Sergei Bobrovsky at his highest level is capable of going on extended winning streaks. We've seen it from this team in the past. Carolina, so far this season, they have only played just the one game to this point of the campaign. So we'll see how they come out here in this particular game, coming back to beat the Minnesota Wild. It was on Saturday night. I know that Alex B. Smith, this game, Jackets and Hurricanes. Alex, fill us in. What you're looking at in this one?
Yeah, I really like Columbus in this spot tonight here. I feel like the way that they're playing offensively, they're going to get better and better. We're not going to find a lot of value on this team down the line. I think they're going to be higher priced, as time moves on. Like you said, Carolina only played the one game. They looked pretty sloppy at times in that game against Minnesota. Bear in mind, they were playing against Minnesota's backup goaltender, Alex Stalock, and Minnesota had to score about less than a second left in regulation, even forced overtime. So both teams look sloppy in that game. So I think Columbus, with their offensive firepower and they coming off that loss, that blowout loss in Chicago on Saturday, I think they'll be able to take advantage and catch Carolina tonight. Carolina, they've got some good pieces going forward, but right now in this matchup, I think Columbus should be favored, and just the value alone, the Blue Jackets will play there tonight.
Yeah, and it looks like, too, Josh Anderson, a guy that did not start the season with the Columbus Blue Jackets. He's going to be coming into the lineup tonight, and a guy that put in 17 goals last season. So maybe a little bit of a boost here for the Jackets up front. He's expected to be with Dubinsky and Matt Calvert on the line. Matt Calvert's one of those really good players. He can score goals for you. I've noticed the last year or so, been very impressed with what I've seen from him. He can play physical, not scared to drop the gloves on occasion as well. Just that well-rounded team player that's going to dig in defensively. He's going to back check, going to be a two-way player, can chip in goals, can stick up for his teammates and play physical as well. Like what I see from him. That's a pretty solid side, I think. I mean, Columbus off the loss, waiting on this game since Saturday. Carolina to me is going to be improved, and I like Bill Peters, but we'll see if they can handle Columbus. They're going to have to play better, even though they got the win against Minnesota. You're right. That was a 5-4 game. It was like pond hockey at times. A lot of wayward defensive zone coverage on both sides, I noticed at times. And, of course, when you talk about Alex Stalock being in net instead of Devin Dubnyk, maybe a little bit of a break there, too, for Carolina in that game. Do Andrew or Dana have any thoughts on this matchup?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Ian, I mean, I'm going to be on the opposite side of Alex on this one. I think Carolina's the side on this. And, one of the things that you had mentioned is I do look at people, at new players going into lineups. And when I see that, I tend to go the other way, not because I don't think that they're going to be a welcome addition, but because I want to make sure that they are. I bet on games based upon what I know. And a lot of times when you infuse new players, it takes a game or two to be able to, meet expectations of a player coming back. I liked Carolina before any lineup changes to Columbus, but to me, Ian and Alex and Andrew, if we look at last season, this is one of the teams that Columbus has always had an issue with. In fact, last year, for as good as Columbus was and as bad as Carolina was, or at least, competitive but didn't make the playoffs. I mean, it was the season series was 2-2, including the last game, which was a 2-1 Carolina victory. And I still keep waiting for this Hurricane team to break out. I mean, let's remember that last season, they lost 14 games after regulation. I mean, I feel like they're right there on the brink. It's the same thing with the Flyers. I mean, if you have it in you to win 10 games in a row, I feel like, okay, at least you have the core of what could be a successful franchise. And so if Carolina could just flip a few of those games, I mean, they could have been looking at, potentially right, into a playoff spot. I mean, they do have to get, production from that top line. I mean, Lindholm and Aho and Stahl. I mean, these guys certainly have to have production in order for this bet to win. But I think there's enough speed there. I think they're as skilled up front, especially in the top line. And this line kind of indicates, and then once again, I'm giving bookmakers way too much credit. But it hurts me to say that because I know they don't watch the sport. But I think I would take a chance with Carolina tonight, just due to the fact that, there's some teams that they know that they're really close to taking a next step. And then when they play teams that they know are ahead of them, or, teams that they are going to have to get up for, that is going to enable them to move forward in their ultimate goals. I don't think you're going to have a team that's kind of down for this game. So I think Carolina might be up where Colorado or where Columbus might be down a little bit. So I'm willing to lay the $1.20 and get the home team here.
All right, awesome. Conflicting viewpoints. I like that every now and then. That's nothing wrong with that. It's great. As long as it's good, healthy discussion, that's right. As long as we're not hating each other at the end of the show. That's all love here on the NHL Ice Guys, of course. That's what it's all about here. All right, let's move on. We've got Chicago-Montreal, next game on the card. I wonder who might be wanting to talk about this game. Maybe the resident Blackhawk fan in the group, maybe? Just a thought, just a hunch. Chicago-Montreal. Not many lines being reported, although I do see a lone wolf type of opener at 5 dimes with Chicago -115. This game, of course, back-to-back situation for Chicago, and so far, based on results, you got to be weary about teams in that spot. Not that you don't other times, but so far this season, it's been a tough go of it for teams playing the second night of back-to-back games. Like I said, Vegas is one of the few, if not maybe might be actually be the only team to win on the second night of back-to-back so far this season when they beat Arizona on Saturday night in overtime. So that's the spot here for Chicago. On the flip side, you got Montreal that won their first game against Buffalo. Since then, no, not so good for this Montreal Canadiens team. My arrow's pointing down on them. I'm not interested in Montreal. I don't care about the back-to-back spot. For me, it's Chicago or nothing. I'm going to stay away, though. But, Alex, you're going to tell us about this game. You're a Hawk fan. You know this team like a book. What do you think about their situation tonight in Montreal?
Well, you look at last night's game. They jump out to a quick lead, and then they just completely kind of fell back almost into like a prevent style, if you want to use the football term. And eventually Toronto, the hot offense took care of business and eventually forced overtime, won the game with Austin Matthews, an incredible shot in overtime. Now you look here tonight, Corey Crawford's back in that. It was Anton Forsberg yesterday, because they said coming off the back-to-back. Corey Crawford has done very well. He's won 5 straight games against Montreal the last couple of years, playing in his hometown, so always fired up for that. But you also look at, you mentioned off of a back-to-back and off of an overtime loss. This is a stat I didn't even know. Somebody else pointed this out to me. The Blackhawks are 36-15 off of an overtime game the prior night. That's a bizarre stat. I know it goes back a long way, but that's really bizarre to think about when you say teams usually struggle off back-to-backs, especially road back-to-back games. So that's clearly showing that the Hawks have found ways over the years to fire themselves up back after a tough loss the night before. Obviously, you look at a team that wins as often as the Hawks do lately. They show some resiliency. I think they're going to be a little ticked off at how they blew that game last night. Corey Crawford, obviously the better goaltender in net from last night. And I think they'll be able to handle them. Like I said, Montreal is just not as sharp of a team so far. So I like the Hawks in the spot. Like I said, I'll be waiting for a line. I don't know if I'll play it, but I think the Hawks do bounce back and get a win here.
All right, Chicago. And by the way, Alex is not a Chicago Blackhawks homer. He has bet against his team many times in the past. I can vouch for that, and I can absolutely stand up for him when I say that he's not just one of those guys that when it's a Blackhawks game, I'm going to look for every reason to bet Chicago, and if I don't find that reason, I'm passing the game. No, he'll put his money down against his beloved Blackhawks. That's what's great about that. That's why I love bettors like that aren't afraid to bet against their own team. It shows you that, hey, the pocketbook, the wallet comes first with your betting procedures, I guess you could say. Philadelphia, Nashville, 7-8 rotation number. Nashville -150 total, 5.5, shaded a little bit to the under in this game. Very interesting game. I actually do have an opinion. This is the first game really of this card that I will have a bet on. I'm going to look over 5.5 with the total. The side, I would take Philadelphia because I think this team from a side perspective has some momentum, but I don't like the spot here for the Philadelphia Flyers tonight. This is the last game of this road trip to begin the season. You already won 2 out of 3. You beat Anaheim, you beat San Jose, and then you had that tough loss against LA where you didn't really play that bad. You outshot the Kings. Jonathan Quick was fantastic in that game, allowed the Kings to win. But troublesome little spot here because it's the end of that road trip. So you don't get a team's focus and intensity not sometimes you do, but there's a lot of times you don't, and they're just a little mentally checked out that last game of that road trip. A little bit of a concern, and then of course they go for their home opener coming up in a few nights, and that's going to be against the Capitals as well. So you talk about a big time opponent that's come on deck for you when you return to Philadelphia to play your first home game. And Nashville's had a real tough start, no question. One for them. Offense has been a little bit hard to come by for Nashville. We've seen Pekka Rinne struggle in net. I'm not shocked to see that. I was saying that in the preview show. I don't trust Pekka Rinne this season to keep up what he's done in years past. I know he had a great little run in the playoffs, just, got hot late in the regular season, carried that into the playoffs, really hasn't over so far this season. When you look at Pekka Rinne and his numbers, not at all a surprise to me to see him struggle. So I think Philadelphia is going to have that opportunity to score some goals. But I also think that Nashville back home, second spot for them. I know they've had to deal with some injuries. They really miss Ryan Ellis. That's a puck-carrying, puck-moving defenseman on their back end. I know PK Subban gets a lot of the praise. And Roman Josi, no question about that. They're the star defensemen on this Nashville team that get a lot of the praise, a lot of the credit for what they're able to do. But Ryan Ellis is an underrated defenseman, and he played so well for the Predators, I thought, during their run to the Stanley Cup Finals last year. They've missed him. Obviously it's not been the offensive start they were hoping for. 2 games against Boston and Pittsburgh. Boston, 2 of those late though, and power play aided in the game against the Bruins, and then of course get shut out by the Pittsburgh Penguins 4-0 in their last game on Saturday night. I think now that they're back home, and we saw this team offensively at home, you could see them score goals. Philadelphia's, let's be honest, San Jose, okay, good, decent offense. LA, no, not a great offense whatsoever. Anaheim, with all the injuries they're dealing with Getzlaf being banged up and Kessler out, and 2 guys that are good puck movers on the back end, Lindholm and Vatanen out. It's good you beat them, but I still don't know if that's a great offense with all the missing parts there for the Ducks right now that you shut down. It might be a little more a challenge here for the Flyers defensively against a Predators team that I think, from what I've read, they're looking to be a little bit more aggressive offensively. I'm getting that throw every puck toward the net quote from Laviolette going into this game. So I'd expect to see that mantra from Nashville here tonight. And the over's 5-1-1. The last 7 meetings between these 2 teams here in Nashville. So I'm going to look over 5.5 Flyers and Predators in that game. Before we move on to the next one, does any of you 3 guys have a quick thought on the Flyers-Predators game there?
Well, for me, and it's definitely a game I'm staying away from. Typically, I don't love Philadelphia on the road. They haven't shown that they consistently can win on the road. They've dropped 22 out of their last 30, and then they're going into a situation at Bridgestone Arena where Nashville has one of the best home ice advantages in the league. To your point, though, Philadelphia has had a lot of success against Nashville. They've won 4 out of the last 5, and I understand the premise of putting a lot of pucks to the net, but, there also is the idea of not just putting pucks to the net, but being able to be physical enough to get the greasy goals in front, and that was always Boston's issue last year. A ton of shots on net, but they all came from the perimeter, and they just didn't have enough scoring to overcome their lack of defense. So this is a game I stay away from, but if you're looking at the Flyers in this, they have had success against Nashville, but just overall, they're not a good play on the road.
Yeah, Philadelphia to me has been bet on just because the schedule broke right for them. A Kings team I don't believe in, a Sharks team I don't believe in, and an Anaheim team that was banged up. I still say I bet on Philly more because I was anti the other team more than I was pro Philly. So we'll see what they can do here. This is going to be a little step up in class. I know Nashville's gotten off to the 0-2 start, not the start that the defending Western Conference champions thought, but this back at home spot for them, you think you're going to get an A game out of the Nashville Predators. If you think you're going to see one, you would think this is the spot that you're going to get it. Rotation 9 and 10, we've got Detroit taking on Dallas. Dallas, a lofty favorite, -180. A home favorite, total of 5.5, -115 to the over. And let's give the Detroit Red Wings a little credit because 2-0 start, not exactly something that I thought was going to be in their wheelhouse this season, but they've managed that very solid start. They beat Minnesota Arena in their first game and then beat the Ottawa Senators last out on the road too. That game was in Ottawa on Saturday night. So impressive stuff for Detroit. They've had to deal with a Nick Cronwall injury. He's out. And out as well for this game due to injury. Ben Bishop, he's the key player to watch here. It looks like he is questionable. Last I checked, though, they say he's probably got a decent shot to play in this hockey game, so keep an eye on that. Dan Hamhuis questionable with a groin injury, and Marty Hansel, a third-line center for the Stars, he will play with a lower body injury, but he's been upgraded to probable for this game. But, we'll give the Detroit Red Wings a little bit of credit for this 2-0 start. They're one of those teams, though, and I hinted at it before the show. Do you trust them to maintain a solid start? I still don't. They're going to need Jimmy Howard to steal them some games, and he's already shown that capability. But Detroit, to me, got a lot of holes in this lineup. The blue line depth really does concern me as well for Detroit. Bottom six forwards can't match up. Eventually, you can only go so far, I think, and that's at some point going to catch up with you. Happen at some point here for the Detroit Red Wings. And for Dallas, they've been off since Friday. That 4-2 loss, or since Saturday rather, 4-2 loss in St. Louis. They had that back-to-back 0-2 start for them. They lose to Vegas 2-1. That was a Marc-Andre Fleury theft job. That game, if anyone saw that, it was just outstanding goaltending by Fleury. That's why Dallas was done in by the Golden Knights in that one. Next night out, they played a lot better. Or they played really well again. 40-21, because when you look at the first two games here for Dallas, you're looking at 86-51 shots advantage for the Dallas Stars in those two games, yet they're 0-2 at the end of the day. So tough start for them when they could easily be 2-0. So this is a Dallas team that, you see the record 2-0, but you dig underneath the surface and you realize, hey, this team's probably should have a better record than 0-2. They played well enough to win both of those games, Vegas and St. Louis. It's a Dallas or pass spot for me. I think this is the spot here at home. I think Detroit's 2-0. Nice little, reason to get excited for the Red Wings for maybe a week or two, and then reality might set in at some point with this team. Detroit and Dallas, I think this is a full house type of situation here. I think we've got two guys, or I think, it is everybody, or no, it's Alex and Andrew here with specific opinions here on Detroit and Dallas. So let's start with Alex. Red Wings and Stars, what you got?
I agree with you what you're saying with Detroit about how it's a bit of a early kind of momentum deal as far as Detroit looking solid and having the 2 wins, but this is not a team that's really built in the long run to continue winning. However, in this particular spot, they've played very well over the several years against Dallas. Looking at stats just in Dallas alone, they've won 7 of the last 8 meetings. They've won 11 of the last 15. So, for some reason, they find a way to play well against. Obviously, we're looking at a much different Dallas-style team. This is not the complete freewheeling, offensive-minded and horrible goaltending that we've seen from them in last couple of years. So that being said, this is going to be a much tighter game, but I think those 2 wins have given Detroit at least a little bit of momentum to ride on. And you look at Dallas, this is a team that, they're supposed to be tighter defensively with Ken Hitchcock coming back, but the offense obviously is not really there, only 3 goals in the first 2 games. So it makes me wonder, at this high of a price too. I think there's a way, I would look at Detroit here plus 155, plus 160. I think maybe they can steal a game here tonight. And if Detroit is riding high on their momentum of winning and Dallas is still trying to figure a few things out, I think they could catch them sleeping tonight.
That's the thing. It's a Dallas Stars. That's the thing about Ken Hitchcock, and it's why it's a little surprising they're 0-2, because like I said, every time we've seen Ken Hitchcock in action, they have been able and get things going right away and be able to just improve instantly. To me, I think Dallas could break out tonight. We'll see. I'm obviously not going to lay minus 180. If I take Dallas here, it would be puck line or nothing. Maybe a Dallas team total. I think that's even better. Stars team total to go over might be worth a lot. I think they do find a way to crank this offense up. Like, you fired 86 pucks at the net in your first 2 games. You've had some bad puck luck. You just haven't been able to finish. You haven't been clinical and surgical enough in front of the net. Marc-Andre Fleury absolutely stonewalled you in the 1 game against Vegas. I think at some point you're going to get some bounces. You're going to get some breaks. You're going to get a puck to go in off someone's shin or something like that. Some crazy shit like that's going to happen, and that's going to get the monkey offensively off this Dallas Stars back, so to speak. So I think tonight you could see a good performance from Dallas. We'll see. But, you know, Detroit's 2-0. And sometimes with these teams, you expect to be not so good. When they start 2-0, they got a little confidence, a little mojo, a little pep in their step. Maybe Detroit can carry that over tonight, but it'll be an interesting one to watch. I know Andrew McInnes, he's involved with Dallas, Detroit. Andrew, what's your take?
Well, guys, I really think this is one of those games where we really, if it come at the beginning of the season, we probably didn't really picture this to be, you know, the standings or really the records for these two teams. You know, 2-0 for Detroit, 0-2 for Dallas.
Yeah, you thought they'd be flipped. Exactly right. Yep.
I think it's one of those stories really where both they just ran into two hot goaltenders. They ran into Fleury, you know, against this Vegas team, or Las Vegas, as I should say, Dana. You know, a team like that that's kind of just getting going, getting under the belt. Their first year, they had a lot of momentum, a lot of emotion going into that game. They're feeling good. And, you know, that's kind of what stopped them. And then they couldn't score either. But, you know what? I think the floodgates open up tonight, guys. You know, I'm happy and I'm impressed with the way Detroit's looked. Former Halifax Moosehead, Marty Ferk, made the team this year. He's already has 2 goals for Detroit. But I think this is the game. The floodgates open up. They're at home. And I think the line is reflecting that at -185. So for me, it's the puck line and the total. I think this is a goal fest tonight, guys. I think that Dallas finally starts putting up some goals, and I think the total soars over. 5.5 is a little bit too low for me right now. These two teams are exciting. It's not what we're used to seeing from Detroit. It's kind of the old Detroit we're used to seeing from several years back. And I think Detroit's going to be one of those teams this year where the games that they do win, or the games that they're even involved in, are going to be games that are high scoring. And I think tonight's the night that guys like Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn, and of course my former Montreal Canadian that I wish re-signed, Radulov, I think tonight's the night that they'll re-spark and find the back of the net, guys.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the Vegas game, actually, when I saw it. I mean, Radulov that night had like 3 or 4 glorious chances, and Fleury either stoned him or he hit the side of the net, and he's just looking around saying, what have I got to do to score a damn goal here? And that's been Dallas so far. Dallas has had the chances. They've had the shots. And you look at Detroit in their 2-0 start, outshot in both games. I still think this is a little bit of a phony Red Wings team. Nice 2-0 start. They got the win. We'll see if they can do it here tonight against Dallas. That's you know, it's one of those, hey, circle the wagons, 0-2. We could have won both games. We finally get off the schneid and win tonight. We'll see if it does happen. But as I say that, Detroit money coming in. I'm seeing my screen flash here. It's -165, 170 now. We've got some people saying Detroit's feeling it right now. Give me the underdog. Red Wings taking some money right now as we speak. That line's moving down toward the Detroit side. So if you like the Red Wings, you might want to lock in sooner rather than later. We've got Ottawa, Vancouver next up. Rotation 11-12, -110 to -115. Pretty much in that range across the board, but Vancouver as a home favorite. Total in this game, a little bit of some 5s and some 5.5s, heavily shaded to the under. So make sure if you are looking at the total, you get a 5 if you like the over, or you try to get a 5.5 if you like the under in this game. Ottawa taking on Vancouver. We've got 2 guys with opinions on this game, and I have an opinion on this game, but I'll save mine for the end. I like giving my guests, my ice guys, the floor first. But yeah, I do have an opinion on this Ottawa-Vancouver game, and I know Andrew does and Dana does. So let's go to Andrew. Ottawa-Vancouver, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, right away I'll just say Ottawa money line. I like Ottawa tonight. I know they're a little bit banged up, but I think Vancouver is just a little bit overvalued. I think just off their win, they had a nice win against the Edmonton Oilers, but also I think a lot to blame is just on the Oilers for that game and not as much credit to Vancouver. I like Ottawa's team. I like this. They can put up goals. Craig Anderson is rock solid back there for them. And I think they have depth. And I think that's what's important nowadays in the NHL, and especially when you're playing so many games, a lot of back-to-backs happening. I think the depth is most important. And I think, you know, this Ottawa Senators team, guys, we can't really name too many all-stars from them. You don't really hear too many like flashy players out of this team, but it's just a team, in my opinion, that can come out tonight, and I think they're gonna put on a show for us, and that's why I like them. It's not really the heaviest play, not my strongest play of the night, but I do like Ottawa tonight.
Ottawa Senators, says Andrew. Is Dana in agreement, disagreement, or is he looking first period or something totally different? Dana, what do you think about this matchup, late night action?
Yeah, I'm definitely going with the under on this. I mean, I know this morning I got to give up a minus $1.30 on this. Like, it opened up at -20, but The line at Bookmaker looks to be the best at this point, but I certainly like the under in this. I mean, you give up a 3-1 lead to Washington, you end up you manage a single goal against Detroit. I'm just not sure where this Ottawa team is right now. And then you take Karlsson out of the mix, who did or will travel with the team but will not be there for this game. You take Karlsson out of the mix, who is your number one offensive guy, and then you kind of lean on Dion Phaneuf, and you're leaning on Chris Weidman. I mean, neither one of those guys inspire me to take the over. A nice victory for Travis Green open against Edmonton. I mean, that's fantastic and all, but in order for Ottawa to be successful, they have to play well defensively, and they have to play well defensively in all three zones, especially the neutral zone, which was, kind of their MO last year in the playoffs. I think this game's gonna be a tight, hard checking, neutral zone type game. I don't think there's going to be a lot of offensive chances, and I think this game is an easy under. Not only is this a play for me, but this is my best play on the card tonight.
All right, Ottawa, Vancouver under. I do agree with the thought process that Vancouver will be goal challenged throughout the course of the season. I mean, the Sedins now getting a little older, a step slower. Bo Horvat, great player, but not a whole lot of depth offensively for this Canucks team around him. And you know what? The recent series history supports that underplay for Dana. You look at last year, 3-0, 1-0. Easy unders, both games between the Senators and Canucks last year, which, by the way, those 3-0, 1-0 games, both won by the Ottawa Senators, the team I'm also going with in this game. I'm right with Andrew on this one. We're looking at Ottawa, money line. And I know Ottawa's got some issues right now to deal with on the back end. Totally understand that. It's actually what's decreased the strength of this play for me a little bit. Not enough, though, to stay away from it, because to me, it can be summed up in one simple sentence. Vancouver's favored over somebody. End of story. End of story. Vancouver's favored over somebody. I will take my chances any day of the week with that situation. And I know Ottawa's banged up on the blue line. Like I said, Karlsson hasn't played a game yet. Johnny Oduya with an injury. Ben Harper left the game against Detroit on Saturday due to injury. So 3 defensemen may be out for this game for Ottawa. That's definitely a concern, but I like that they're going on the road now off that loss to Detroit. I like that first game of a road trip spot. That is a signature situation for me in hockey betting. That first game of a road trip gets that focus, especially off a loss involving a quality team. And I think Ottawa will take a step back a little bit this year, but they're still, to me, a quality team, still a team that's going to be in the mix to make the playoffs and be there in the postseason. And I think you're going to still see that everybody get that step-up effort after the home loss to Detroit on Saturday against a beatable foe. I mean, give them credit. Travis Green, as Dana alluded to, stepped up in that game. They wanted to win, give the very first game of the season for their new young head coach, Travis Green. They were able to do it, but they beat Edmonton. They beat a quality foe, but Edmonton's got issues right now. We haven't seen them play 2 good games in a row here so far. I mean, they shut out Calgary first night, but lose to Vancouver. I thought they were very, very poor last night against the Winnipeg Jets. And this depth offensively for Edmonton, suddenly a question mark. It seems if McDavid and Draisaitl not going for them, they've got issues. So nice win for Vancouver, but maybe they took advantage of an Edmonton team that's not firing on all cylinders just yet, as much as it is something great Vancouver did. So yeah, I'm going to look at Ottawa in this game, money line. You can get probably around -105 pretty much right now with this Ottawa team. Yeah, you can get a -105 out there. The Greek 105 to -110 pretty much with Ottawa, near that even money price. I think it's worth a look. And we're going to wrap up with, I think, the storyline of the night in the NHL. Rotation 13 and 14. It's the home debut at T-Mobile Arena for the, don't call them loss, Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Arizona Coyotes. Vegas in that -110 to -115 on favorite range, total 5.5, shaded to the under. And Vegas, to me, is a team that 2-0, did not expect that. Certainly did. I don't think many people did, but and they've won it 2 different ways. Dallas, they had no business winning that game. That was a Marc-Andre Fleury steal from the beginning, stole the game from the onset. Dallas heavily outplayed Vegas, but they got unbelievable goaltending in that game, and James Neal able to capitalize with a goal late to win that game. And James Neal's been fantastic. And then, of course, does it again against Arizona on Saturday night. they were full marks for the win against Arizona. That was a much better team performance by the Vegas Golden Knights. They carried the play much more. They were much more involved in the offensive zone, the Vegas Golden Knights, in that game against Arizona on Saturday night. And considering that was off a huge win the night before and a back-to-back spot, I was impressed with what I saw from Vegas, just the energy. And I'm telling you what, I love the hire of Gerard Gallant from day one. This guy was totally blackballed, absolutely pissed on by the Florida Panthers, and that exit there with leaving him to get his own cab back to the airport. Disgrace by the Florida Panthers to hire a dope instead, Tom Rowe, to take over. Look how well that went. Tom Rowe was a complete buffoon, had no clue what he was doing behind the bench there. The players didn't really have much care for what he was saying either by the way they played for Tom Rowe. So good job, Florida. But hey, your stupidity has made the Vegas Golden Knights a much better organization out of the gate because they've got a quality head man in there in Gerard Gallant. And one thing you're going to see from this Vegas team, and I've seen that already the first two nights, you're going to get hard work. You're going to get the hard hat, the work boots on every night out of Vegas, and they're just going to grind and grind and grind and plug away. That's a term that I've heard Gerard Gallant say in multiple press conferences: plugging away, keep plugging, keep plugging. And that's what I think you're going to see from the Vegas Golden Knights this season. Vegas, this is like a party night for Vegas, for sports in Las Vegas, for hockey in Las Vegas. The team knows it. You worried? Are they gripping the stick a little bit too tight when they have a close point, grade A quality scoring chance in front of the net tonight? Maybe that's a slight concern in spots like this because they want to perform so badly and do so well for the home fans tonight. But this is still a clear as day Vegas spot for me. And looking to take the Las Vegas Golden Knights here in this game, in this short price range. Arizona, to me, is having some growing pains as a young team. Can score goals, no question about that, but protecting leads has been a problem for the Arizona in 2 games. Had a big lead, 4-1 against Anaheim, couldn't hold it, and that was a riddled Anaheim team injury-wise in their first game, and they blow that game, lose 5-4. And then, of course, against Vegas, a 2-1 overtime loss. Antti Raanta played that game. They did get some better goaltending. You would think Raanta will be back in net for Arizona tonight. Of course, it's going to be Fleury for Vegas. But, should be interesting. And I know it's, Vegas beat them in Arizona. The revenge, throw it out the window. Revenge doesn't matter this early in the season. If it's playoff revenge, okay. But this is Vegas' spot. This is their game. And I think they're going to get the job done here tonight against Arizona because I had it circled like months ago. I'm going to bet on Vegas in their first home game. That's all there is to it. And I'm not backing away from that now. This is a big game, big night for Vegas, big night for the NHL. So I'm going to get everybody's take on this game, regardless of whether you have a strong opinion on it or not. Starting with you, Alex. Any thoughts? Coyotes, Knights, as they christen hockey in Las Vegas for the first time.
Yeah, I looked at this game too. Obviously, when the schedule came out, obviously it's going to be a big event, but I wasn't really sure. Obviously, like I said, we didn't know what we're going to see from this team early on. So as far as betting it, I just never really thought about it in one way or the other. But I do think it's going to be, like I said, the momentum's riding in their favor, and of course the crowd's going to be absolutely electric. I would assume it would feel like a playoff type game almost, having this big of an event there. So that the only way I would really look at this would be to look at backing Vegas.
All right, Andrew, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is one of those things where it's the acceptable time and one of those moments where it is acceptable to, hey, before you even see what happens, you're looking at the calendar, maybe even this summer, and you're saying, this is the spot. This is that home opener. I'm liking Las Vegas for the simple reason that it's their home opener and they're going to be fired up. This is one of those times where I think it is acceptable to say that. But not only that, in my opinion, they impressed me the first 2 games. They weren't anything too exceptional, but I think Marc-Andre Fleury back there is a great choice for them as a goaltender. I think that was obviously a smart choice for them picking him up last year. But, just the supporting cast that they have, I think obviously James Neal's going to be heavily relied on for offense throughout the season. But this team is better than most people thought they were going to be, and I think that they'll stick around for a little while, which is why, I would agree with Golden Knights for tonight. But I also don't think it'll be too high scoring. And I think that the games that the Knights are going to win moving on in this season will be low scoring. So I would look to back the under in this game as well. As pumped up and as exciting everyone's going to be about this game, I just can't see it being goal here, goal there kind of game. So if anything, I would take the Golden Knights and lean on the under as well.
Not with the way Marc-Andre Fleury's been playing through 2 games. I mean, this guy, and I've seen it for years now with Pittsburgh, he is one of those guys that when he is locked in and he's in a stretch of play where he is just seeing the puck, it's looking like a beach ball to him, and it's just everything's looking sharp, crisp, and he's seeing everything, which is what's happened in these first 2 games. He can go on a run for you. And then there's some games, and we saw it in Pittsburgh, where when he gets cold, in the other direction from Marc-Andre Fleury. But so far, so good. He's been fantastic. And I agree with you. This is a correlated type of game to me. Arizona, not just tonight, but moving forward, they're going to be scoring goals and have to win high-scoring games to win. Offense is their strength. Defense is not. And for Vegas, it's the opposite. They're going to have to win those 2-1, 3-1 games moving forward because, and I shudder to think what might happen offensively to this team if something happens injury-wise to James Neal, because he's been absolutely sensational for this team. And there's some drop-off in terms of who's going to consistently get clutch goals, put the puck in the net for Vegas long-term. They don't have to worry about that yet, but that's something you may want to watch for down the road. Let's get the Las Vegas residents' thought on this game. Dana Lane.
Well, I shudder to think what's going to happen if Marc-Andre Fleury gets hurt, because this past week, obviously Calvin Picker got shuffled out of town, and then Malcolm Subban came in, and I was at practice yesterday watching Subban, and look, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, I can speculate, but this is a guy in Calvin Pickard that they were obviously high on to begin with, and that's why they got him in the expansion draft. But I think that there's something internally happening there where McPhee decided to go out and get Malcolm Subban on the waiver wire and say so long to Calvin Pickard. And to me, I mean, a lot of people say, well, look at how he played. Well, first of all, I'm not going to take exhibition games and equate that to what a player is. I thought, he played as well as he possibly could have in Colorado last year. And certainly if you talk to Team Canada, they're happy with the way that he performs. But, they're one injury away. And that's the one thing I worry about with Vegas, and everybody's getting excited. And of course, their win totals down to 67, or point totals down to 67, been bet down. But they're very fragile, and that's my only, yes, it's great that they won 2 straight games, but if they have an injury here or injury there, the depth, I mean, you talk about a lack of depth. I mean, there is just no depth whatsoever on this team. So that's the only thing I worry about as well. I mean, of course, tonight I'm staying away from this game. I mean, it's an emotional night for the city because, of course, they're going to honor the shooting victims as well of a tragedy 9 days ago, in addition to trying to get the crowd fired up. The bottom line is, all the festivities will actually happen the next game in full force, where, half of the pregame ceremonies are going to be dedicated to the victims. So you never know what kind of atmosphere that's going to create in the arena. I know revenge spots are, they go out the window in 5 minutes. But if I'm kind of foreshadowing in the Arizona locker room right now, they're saying, look, we got embarrassed on our home ice the other night, and we still, we appreciate what's going on here and what happened in Las Vegas, but at the same time, we can't lose twice to an expansion team. I also worry about them up the middle. I mean, look, this really has played out the way it should have played out, but not in the way it played out. Vadim Shipachyov was supposed to be their number 1 center up, but they went out over and got him in the KHL, paid him $9 million over 2 years, and now he finds himself in Chicago. Well, a lot of people don't like that. Jeremy Roenick said he should be in Vegas. Well, you know what, Jeremy, go to practice once in a while, because I'm telling you, the guy isn't ready. He's not going to play a minute. McPhee said it yesterday in the press conference. He's not going to play a minute in Chicago, but he's not ready for the NHL level either. And I think there's a lot of things that he has to overcome in order to be an effective NHL player. And in fact, his wife is here in Vegas, and he said, look, I'm not staying in Chicago. I'll go to report, but I'm going back to Vegas because my wife's all alone in a city where she doesn't speak English. And there's some rumblings about whether or not he wants to go back to the KHL. So there's some internal things going on here, as there is with most teams. And I'm just kind of closer to that issue. But as far as tonight is concerned, it's a stay away game and enjoy the game for me, because I never know emotionally when you have so much going on. I never know how emotions are going to affect Arizona and how they're going to affect Vegas. So it's a stay away game for me.
All right, great input from the local, the Las Vegas resident himself, Dana Lane, and hockey fan. Are you at the game, Dana, or are you going to be watching on at home now that Cox Cable, thank God, has a deal in place with AT&T Sportsnet Rocky Mountain that everyone, cable or satellite now in the city, can watch this team play? Are you at home or are you going to the game?
No, I will be at the game as a fan tonight. And then, of course, against the Bruins, I'll be sitting in the press box, trying to look busy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and keep your Bruin fandom under wraps at the same time.
Exactly right. I don't know what I'm going to do that day. I'm telling you, Ian, it's a day that I have tried to stay away from for a very long time. I've always had people say to me, well, what happens if UNLV plays Notre Dame? And I'm like, and what? Because neither one of these teams are going to play each other in football. I mean, I guess the closest I ever got was Notre Dame playing Nevada, which we don't consider part of the NCAA. But, now I finally have a spot where I'm like, I'm just going to sit and watch, and whatever happens, happens. And I might close my eyes for 40 minutes of the 60.
Yeah, it actually could happen. UNLV, Notre Dame, maybe in basketball down the road. But I think UNLV is going to have to get out of being a joke right now the last couple of years in basketball for that to happen. I mean, that's been an absolute mess with the basketball. That's unfortunate, but hey, it's a chance for the Golden Knights to capitalize because UNLV football's struggling and sputtering, and the basketball has been hopeless the last couple of years. This is an opportunity for the Golden Knights to really capitalize on a fan base that's looking for some excitement. And Golden Knights, the longer they win, I'll tell you what, to start this season, the larger that train is going to get in terms of the Vegas fan base down there for the Golden Knights. All right, this is our show going to wrap up in a second, but we're not going anywhere, of course, until best bets. We do best bets. Best bets have done pretty good so far for the most part in the season. Let's continue it now for today. Best bets from everyone. Let's start with Alex B. Smith, your best bet for Tuesday's card.
Yeah, my best bet, I mentioned it earlier, it's the Columbus Blue Jackets. I played this game as soon as I was able to find a line available. I got it plus 105, but you should be able to find some even better prices. Now, I just think right now they are their offense matches up very well against if you look at how sloppy Carolina played that first game, I think they'll be able to score some goals early. I might also look at the first period over in this game as well, but Columbus Blue Jackets, I think they should be favored here. I think the price alone is worth playing on Columbus tonight.
All right, Columbus Blue Jackets at the small plus price as an underdog, says Alex B. Smith. Andrew, your best bet.
Yeah, I'm going with over 5.5 goals in the Detroit versus Dallas game. I'm not going to discredit Jimmy Howard or Ben Bishop. I think this is the spot. I think there's always a time where it's a good time to pick a team, it's heavily favored. And like I said, coming into this game, all of us probably at the start of the season wouldn't have mentioned this to be a kind of tight game or a game that we wouldn't really know who to back on this one with the way the odds are turning out. But I'm telling you guys, the floodgates are going to open up. We're going to see a lot of goals tonight, and I think this is the night for the Dallas Stars. So looking at that over 5.5 goals at minus 107.
All right, Detroit, Dallas over 5.5 for Andrew. Dana, best bet for you on this Tuesday.
No, it's easy for me. It's Vancouver and Ottawa under the 5.5. Make sure to shop for that 5.5 because there are 5s out there, but plenty of 5.5s. You are going to have to give up $1.30 to get that. But honestly, for me, I mean, I look at this Ottawa lineup and I'm looking at Turris and Smith and Brassard, and I'm thinking, where is this offense coming from? Without Carlson in the lineup, they're just to me, there's no offense, and there's no way I can justify taking an over with a team that I have no idea where their goal scoring's coming from. And then basically the same thing for Vancouver.
All right, Ottawa, Vancouver, under 5.5 for Dana. That leaves me with a best bet, trying to keep my mark undefeated with those. I was going to go Vegas initially before the show. I was not really as sold on that. The more I started thinking about it, I'm going to go totals because totals have been really good the first week of the season for me. We're going to go back to the Predator-Flyer game, over 5.5 there. I think Nashville gets their offense going, much like Dallas could tonight. Back home, I think you're going to see Johansson. All their big guns play a lot better. Arvidsson, go on down the list, get more confidence being back home offensively. Going to be a much taller order for Philadelphia defensively. I think Philadelphia could let go of the rope a little bit. defensively tonight. They've had a good road trip. It's been a long road trip. Now they go to Nashville Central Time Zone, going from Pacific to Central. I think this could be a sloppy defensive night for Philadelphia, even though I've backed them a few times this season. But on the flip side, Flyers have been scoring goals. Flyers have been generating a lot of scoring chances, shots on goal, drawing penalties. And Pekka Rinne is not a goalie I'm sold on. So the Flyers, I think, could contribute as well. So I'm going Philly, Nashville, over 5.5, and again, over 5-1-1 last 7 meetings between those two teams in Music City. I'm going Flyers Predators over 5.5 for my best bet on this Tuesday card. And with that, that's a wrap. Ice Guys in the books for Tuesday. We'll be back Thursday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time, to break down the Thursday card. Everybody in the house, great job, guys. Always fun doing the show with you. Thanks to the viewers for tuning in. For Dana Lane, for Andrew McInnes, for Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Enjoy the Tuesday night hockey card, and best of luck with all your wagers.